On 5 News, Theresa May's school shake-up. She's announced the biggest changes to classrooms in years. More grammar schools to increase fairness.
I want to see children from ordinary working-class families given the chances their richer contemporaries take for granted. That means we need more great schools.
But critics say more grammar schools will have exactly the opposite effect, punishing the poorest children.
Some kids might enjoy grammar school. Others, like me, hated every moment of it.
I don't think it's fair for children that come from poorer backgrounds. I think they should keep the schools. We don't need to have the grammar schools.
Also this evening, statins are safe. Doctors say claims they can cause serious side effects are exaggerated. Stranded in the sky, the terrifying ordeal for dozens of tourists who had to be rescued from a cable car, 12,000 feet up.
And liftoff of OSIRIS-REx.
NASA's latest mission to intercept an asteroid that could one day hit Earth. And how's that for a good start? Golds aplenty at the Paralympics, putting Britain second in the medals table. Welcome to 5 News, I'm Julian Drucker. It is the biggest revolution in England's education system for many years, and today Theresa May insisted it will benefit ordinary working-class people. She's unveiled a series of plans that include that controversial revival of grammar schools, and that's facing strong opposition over fears it will see a return of the poorest children being forced into second-rate secondary moderns. Simon Vigar reports now on the Prime Minister's radical schools revamp.
The first big policy speech from a rather understated Prime Minister, but you couldn't miss the buzzwords.
A great meritocracy, meritocratic society. Where is the meritocracy? Meritocratic Britain. Merit, not privilege.
She says what we have right now is school selection by house price, and that is less fair than grammars.
I want to see children from ordinary working-class families given the chances their richer contemporaries take for granted. That means we need more great schools. This is the plan to deliver them.
The Prime Minister outlined a 4-point plan. She wants universities to be far more involved in sponsoring and supporting their local state schools. And secondly, she wants public and independent schools to do that too. Their privileged charitable status will hinge on it. The PM wants faith schools to be more autonomous. She claims that addresses admissions policy problems, particular to Catholic schools. And finally, selective schools, grammar schools. Theresa May argues a true meritocracy supports the brightest children. There is a lot of opposition.
Selectivity at 11 divides communities, divides children, and ends up giving a good chance to a minority and a less chance to the majority. I don't think that's a very sensible way forward for our country.
The Prime Minister also made this claim.
There will be no return to secondary moderns.
A lot of people don't buy that.
I think by definition, if you have grammar schools, you have whatever they're called, they're secondary moderns. Because what you're doing is you're taking away some of the most academic kids to one small group of schools, and then the other 80% of kids are going to a different group of schools. That's just secondary moderns by a new name.
It is this understated PM's big plan, but her first big task will be getting it through Parliament. Simon Vigar, 5 News.
So that's the politics of today's announcement. What about the people, the pupils and teachers who'll end up learning and working in grammar schools that are branded unfair because they take only the brightest children? Louise Beale has been taking a closer look.
It was double music this morning for Year 8s at Sutton Grammar School in Greater London. Every boy here took and passed their 11+ exam to attend this school. For many, it meant hours of extra work and leaving friends they'd made at primary school. But all these boys told me grammar school suits them.
I like the atmosphere, the fact that everybody is more or less the same level as me in subjects, rather than I stuck out like a sore thumb in my primary school.
But you don't feel like that here?
No, I feel like I fit in perfectly.
It's really nice because all of the people here are like really contributing to helping me as well as themselves learn, and I didn't quite have that in some of my old schools, so it is quite nice here.
You have to do lots of work outside school to practice for the exams.
And what was that like?
Tough work. I practiced 3 years before the exam.
Gordon Ironside has been head here for nearly 30 years. He welcomes Theresa May's plans, but I asked him if he really thought grammar schools were fair. Children all develop at different rates. How can it be fair to test them at one age and then say, well, you're allowed to come into a grammar school and you're not?
Yeah, OK. We do have further chances to join the school, and indeed significant numbers of students join all the grammar schools locally for their sixth form studies. So there is a second chance, but you can't have people changing every few months. You want to get your cohort of students, work with them, so there has to be an age, and 11 is the transfer age in this area.
Elsewhere in Sutton, grammar schools don't get such a glowing report. Ian Patrick went to one of the 5 in the area, but hated it.
My friends were all at different schools. They seemed to have a, well, I wouldn't say easier life, but more relaxed life than I did. And I was uncomfortable.
Just down the road, we spoke to Jacqueline Brock. She sent her 2 children to local faith schools as she felt the grammar schools were only for the rich.
I think the way they portray grammar schools is for the higher end, if you know what I mean, the higher end children, like parents with money. I don't think it's fair for children that come from poorer backgrounds.
Not everyone will be in tune with the Prime Minister's plans, but as the debate begins, school life here and everywhere will have to carry on regardless. Louise Beale, 5 News.
Well, let's speak to Simon, who's in Westminster. Simon, a pretty bold announcement from the Prime Minister today, one that has seen a lot of criticism too.
Yeah, a lot of opposition here, Julian, and opposition from some Tories too. The Education Secretary, who was sacked by Theresa May, Nicky Morgan, has said she's worried about it undermining all of the Tory reforms. And the head of Ofsted has called the Prime Minister's reasoning tosh and nonsense. Theresa May tried to link the European referendum to this policy today, saying it expressed people's frustration, but nobody in the referendum was speaking about grammar schools. And by the way, it wasn't in the Conservative Party election manifesto either. So a big task ahead for the Prime Minister if she wants to get this through.
Thanks, Simon. 4 men from the West Midlands have appeared in court charged with planning to carry out a terror attack. The men were arrested in Birmingham and Stoke-on-Trent 2 weeks ago. They've been remanded in custody to appear at the Old Bailey later this month. The second person has challenged the decision not to bring sex assault charges against Sir Cliff Richard. The case against the singer was discontinued by the Crown Prosecution Service in June. It centred on accusations dating between the 1950s and 80s. In the past hour, he's again denied the claims, saying he's confident the CPS will reach the right decision. And police are considering whether Labour MP Keith Vaz has committed any criminal offences after reports he offered to pay for drugs for a male escort. The married MP stood down from the Home Affairs Committee over the scandal. Scotland Yard says an investigation hasn't yet been launched. Now, depending what you read, they are either miracle drugs or potential killers. Well, today, one of the most comprehensive studies yet into statins has declared them not just safe, but hugely beneficial. It says research has exaggerated the side effects of the pills while underestimating the positives. Our health correspondent, Catherine Jones, has the details.
Staying healthy and active is important to Steve Bowley. His father had 2 heart attacks in his 50s, and like him, Steve has high cholesterol. So as well as exercising, Steve takes a statin pill every day and credits the drug with changing his outlook as well as his health.
I think I would have led a life worrying what was around the corner. Whereas now, I still know that at some point I'm going to die, but it's going to be, hopefully, in my 90s or my 100s rather than in my 50s.
Statins lower so-called bad cholesterol, and that helps prevent heart disease. 6 million people take them in the UK, and today's study predicts statins will prevent 80,000 heart attacks and strokes in that group. But the researchers also estimate there are 2 to 4 million more people who'd benefit, but who don't currently take the drugs. And the scientists believe it's headlines like these, reporting studies which emphasise the side effects of statins, which have put people off.
I think that there are 2 sides to every story, but what they need to be is based on the evidence. So when one looks at the evidence, it's quite clear about the magnitude of the benefits and the magnitude of the harms.
A few experts have disagreed, the British Medical Journal saying this new review of statins still doesn't contain enough data about side effects. But this GP is glad she can now quote the findings to the many patients she sees who object to trying them.
Indeed, I had one just this morning who said, well, my family are really dead set against it. And the great news is that today I was able to say, you know all that advice I've been giving you for the last 10 years? Here it is in black and white.
Whether to take a medicine or not is a personal decision for each individual. Steve feels he's made an informed choice with the best available evidence of the risks and benefits, and now that evidence on statins is clearer for everyone. Catherine Jones, 5 News.
There has been international condemnation of North Korea after it successfully carried out its latest and biggest nuclear test. The US, UK and even Russia were joined in their outrage, describing it as dangerous and provocative. As Frankie McCamley reports, the secretive country was rather more enthusiastic when it announced the news on state TV.
The announcement came from state-run television in North Korea. Another nuclear explosion test has been carried out to protect the country's sovereignty on North Korea's National Day. The country's leader, Kim Jong-un, flashed up on TV screens just after. Monitored by scientists in South Korea who believe it was the country's largest nuclear test yet, producing a 5.3 magnitude tremor forced the government there to move into emergency session. In Japan, the Prime Minister Shinzo Abe condemned the attack, saying if North Korea did carry out a nuclear test, it's something absolutely inadmissible. We need to and will strongly protest against their actions. Arriving in Washington, the US President Barack Obama has agreed to take additional steps, including sanctions against North Korea, while the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has called for a strong international response. Led by Kim Jong-un, North Korea has been testing nuclear technology for years, despite the UN banning the country from doing so. In defiance, missiles have been fired on a regular basis. Now some experts worry the country may have made significant steps in developing its weapons.
The fact that this is the second nuclear test this year, so they're picking up the pace. And with every nuclear test, their technology improves. So it certainly raises the concern about the pace of the development of North Korea's nuclear program.
But in a country where sanctions are already tight and many live in poverty, entrenched in their leader's regime, the international community must now decide how to deal with this latest event. Frankie McCamley, 5 News.
Still to come on the programme. The tourists who got more than they bargained for on a sightseeing trip in the Alps. And 100 metres wide and heading this way, NASA's latest mission to intercept an asteroid. All of that and more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. A group of tourists are back on solid ground today after enduring what would no doubt be many people's worst nightmare. The sightseers had been high up in their cable cars in the French mountains when they stalled. Emergency services came to rescue some, but when it became dark, they had to leave 33 people trapped in their capsules for the entire night. Warren Nettleford has the story.
These reassuring arms are leading this tourist to an ambulance. This tight hug shows just how thankful this woman is she's now safe. Because for more than 16 hours, both of them weren't down here. They were up there in the Alps, trapped in cable cars at an altitude of more than 12,000 feet, suspended above the snow-capped glaciers of Mont Blanc. Yes, it was very long. We spent something like 15 hours in the cable car, 15 hours in a space where you couldn't even stretch your legs. With 4 of us inside, it really wasn't big. One blanket between 2 wasn't enough, so I had a chill. I threw up. I wasn't feeling good. But then we exchanged our coats, so we weren't scared. Yesterday afternoon, it seems, the cables carrying the passenger-filled pods became tangled, meaning the cars were effectively stuck. Rescuers in helicopters were dispatched. 48 tourists were hoisted to safety from the cars, and more than 30 who were closer to ground descended using ropes.
And they tried to take us with a helicopter, but the fog came in, so the 2 rescuers stayed with us, and then we did a belay after we decided there was no other way to get down, and thank goodness that they were able to help us down. Scared? No, just tired, wanted to get out of there.
But 33 other tourists had to stay in position overnight as bad weather halted the operation. They were handed blankets, food and water in the meantime. But by early this morning, their nightmare was over and there were no reported injuries. Strong winds may have been to blame for the tangled cables. This trip to the mountain is one that these tourists won't forget. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Some breaking news now, and in the last few minutes, French prosecutors say 3 women who were arrested last week on terror charges were sent by so-called Islamic State. The suspects were held in connection with a car loaded with gas canisters that was found near Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. Authorities say they'd been planning to attack a major railway station there this week. A probe that'll land on an asteroid millions of miles away, scoop up some samples of space rock and then fly them all the way back to Earth has been launched by NASA. It's hoping OSIRIS-REx and its payload will help answer some fundamental questions, not least whether it really could smash into the Earth. Ruth Liptrot reports.
And liftoff of OSIRIS-REx.
It's a 7-year mission that hopes to answer some of the universe's biggest questions about how our planet and solar system were formed.
To boldly go to the asteroid Bennu.
The OSIRIS-REx probe blasted off from Florida on a NASA Atlas rocket in the early hours of the morning. Its goal? To retrieve a rock sample from a 500-metre wide asteroid called Bennu. So how will it do it? Well, it'll take 2 years to get there, but when it does, a mechanical arm will extend from the probe and make contact with the asteroid. It'll then gather loose fragments, which will be sent back to Earth in a parachuted capsule. But what story can a few grams of matter possibly tell us? Well, the organic chemistry of the asteroid might be able to tell us something about the origins of life as we know it.
What will happen when the samples come back will be decades of study. And that's what's really exciting about it. The ability to hang on to those pristine materials, pose questions and go to them and have them answer them for us.
But it also has another job, one that's potentially even more important, because it's possible that this could come hurtling out of the sky and hit Earth in the next 200 years. It's set to pass by in 2135, but could hit us the next time it passes.
Unlike planets, asteroids are very tiny, so they're affected by the gravity of other planets and also heat from the sun. So by getting to an asteroid, we can understand more about its path and how its movement will change, so we can more accurately find out whether there is a chance that it will hit Earth in the future. And the other point is, worst case scenario, this mission could potentially look at the idea of how we would nudge an asteroid out of the way should it have a collision course with Earth.
Bennu isn't big enough to destroy Earth completely, but would cause massive devastation. OSIRIS-REx might just be able to prevent it from happening. Ruth Liptrot, 5 News.
Whatever Britain's Olympians can do, it seems our Paralympians can more than match. Last night in Rio, Dame Sarah Storey made history by winning her 12th gold medal. And today the golds just kept on coming for her teammates. Sangeeta Kandola has been watching the best of the action.
Behind the smiles, there was pressure too on our Paralympians to perform after Team GB's medal haul success a few weeks ago in Rio. Well, they haven't disappointed.
And it is a new Paralympic record. Superb ride there.
Pedalling fast past the post this afternoon to take Britain's first gold of the day in Rio and showing real leg power, cyclist Sophie Thornhill, who is partially sighted, and Helen Scott took gold in the time trial. And it was an uplifting day too for Great Britain's Zoe Newson, powerlifting her way to bronze after lifting twice her body weight. On the track and in the pool, our Paralympians proved their power, going for gold with consecutive overnight successes.
It's going to be gold for Ollie Hind of Great Britain.
Ollie Hind earned gold in the 400 metres freestyle. That was equalled by Beth Firth, who broke the world record in the 100 metres backstroke.
And this final is over already.
The night, though, went to Paris cyclist Dame Sarah Storey. She becomes the most successful female Paralympian of all time, taking her 12th gold medal 24 years after her first one, for the 3,000 metres individual pursuit final.
So yeah, I'm coming to terms with the idea that yeah, with the games have started and I'm here and I've got a gold medal, and that's added to a tally of the previous 24 years. It's just been a perfect day.
So Great Britain are second in the medal table, 6 golds, 15 medals overall, only outdone so far by China with 8 gold medals and 21 in total. It is, of course, all subject to change. Tonight, all eyes will be on Team GB's Johnny Peacock, hoping to defend his title in the 100 metres final later. Sangeeta Kandola, 5 News.
Good luck, Johnny. That is all for now, but coming up in an hour on 5 News tonight, we'll be debating grammar schools. Now we know where the government stands on the issue. We want to hear what you think. Is the Prime Minister right that they promote a meritocracy? Or do you think that selecting the brightest kids means the others miss out? Let us know on our Facebook page. Also, how worried should we be about the announcement of that nuclear test in North Korea? I'll be speaking to an expert in the region. That is all at 6:30. That is it for now. Kirsty has got the weather next, and I'll see you again at 6:30 for 5 News tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.